have another session coming up that's an absolute treat. He's one of our most popular speakers always at KSLF. Please come take your seats.
Six-blade knife, don't it?
Kill the music. Music ban karo.
Blade, cherry apart, six-blade knife. Take away my money, take away the trouble.
Good evening and welcome back.
From behind me, you lay it down cold.
As I said, our next panelist is a prolific author and will keep you riveted to your seats because he's got
When I was late,
tons of stories to tell. Entertaining, informative, checks all the boxes. Manpreet? Manpreet? Arjun ko bhi baith jaye.
I don't want it no more.
I'm going to have to request Arjun Bedi. Arjun Bedi, please take a seat. Right, the next session is called Spy Stories Forever, in which one of India's most successful spy masters will reveal it all. Please keep your questions ready. And for now, join me in welcoming A.S. Dulat and Harinder Baweja onto the stage, please. Let's give them a warm reception. Come on, we can do better than that, Kasauli. Thank you.
I'm going to sit here so I can see you.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me, everybody? Good evening. I'm back again on stage. We discussed politics and the current crisis in New India in the morning. This evening, I have a very different guest for this session. Amarjit Singh Dulat, the former Raw Chief, who's had a very exciting life as an intelligence officer. He spent a lifetime dealing with Kashmir, rubbing shoulders not just with a Prime Minister who he advised, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, also other politicians, and separatists and militants who believed in the power of the gun. Mr. Dulat is also a prolific writer. So I'm a journalist and I'm paid to write, but you've written more books than I have. He has 3 bestsellers to boast about. The first one, Kashmir, the Vajpayee Years. The second was a true coup, if I may call it that. It was co-authored with the ISI chief of Pakistan, a former chief, General Asad Durrani. And the latest is his memoir called A Life in the Shadows, which we're going to talk about today. Mr. Dulat, welcome.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Shami, and thank you, Rahul, and Nilofer, and Madhur, and everybody connected with this wonderful Lit Fest. there's no better place than Kasauli to have a festival like this. But, after all the beautiful days that was sung about, we come now to talking about dark things and spooking and whatever. And let me warn you that today is Friday the 13th, in case people have forgotten. And tomorrow we are going to war with Pakistan.
Oh,
So watch out. Yeah, it's a lot of life is accidental. I have Mr. Ambassador Manishankar Iyer sitting right in front. We were at a Barkhadat show together and we were standing side by side. And he said to me, "How the hell did you become Raw Chief?" I said, "Purely accident." He said, "That's hell of a good accident." And I must admit, it's been a good life and there have been good accidents so far.
as soon as you became the Raw Chief, the flight got hijacked from Nepal all the way to Kandahar.
Well, I didn't hijack that plane, but yeah, that was one of the difficult times that, if you are in a job like this, sooner or later, and I say to everybody who thinks they must reach the top, that somewhere or the other, you'll get caught out. You'll have to face a crisis. I don't think there can be a prime minister who gets without a crisis. Modi ji, I think, has been very fortunate, but he's still prime minister, and who knows what will happen. And Dr. Prabhakar told us about a lot of things earlier in the morning. That it's a difficult life up there, and that hijacking was one of those times when we were under a lot of stress. And it's a subject which has not died down. People still talk about it. Why did we have to give in, and why did we have to negotiate, and why did we... Well, I think we really goofed up, as I have written repeatedly in Amritsar, when we let that aircraft go. Once the aircraft was out of Indian airspace, there was no other option but to negotiate. And everybody negotiates. The most hard negotiates the most. And they are in a super again, and they will negotiate again, because they have 100 hostages in the Gaza Strip now. And so anybody who says they don't negotiate, in fact, when the UPA government came to power in 2004, this is one of the things which was moved in Parliament, that we should say that we will never negotiate with terrorism. And I must say, to his credit, Mr. Jaswant Singh stood up and said, "Don't pass this. You'll never be able to stand by this, because there will be a time when you will have to negotiate." So everybody negotiates, and it was one of those times when we negotiated. And fortunately, it ended on New Year's Eve, so I was able to come home, sit by the fireside, and sip cognac with Paran.
Okay, so let me ask you my first question. And we are supposed to reveal a few state secrets, please remember that. You've often been described as a spy master, and I have to say you are a very well-known one. And you are a very amiable person to talk to. I've known you now since 1990. You're full of stories. Tell us about one intelligence operation that had you on tenterhooks, that kept you pacing up and down, up and down.
Now, Shami, I've known for a long time, and like she said, when was it, mid-80s?
I met you in 89.
Okay, 89, yeah, just before I left Kashmir.
Srinagar, yes.
And if I might put it that way, she's been my double agent, this way and that. So, Yeah, there are so many stories. I don't know which story I can tell you. But you asked one a little earlier. Kandahar did have us on tenterhooks. And we had to send our very, very best negotiators to Kandahar to negotiate. One of them is now,
National Security Advisor.
yeah, is the National Security Advisor. So it was the very best. And it was very tough out there, you know. And they kept telephoning and pleading and do this quickly, get us out of here. It's a very difficult thing. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. These guys are being very difficult. That was the Taliban. And the Taliban at that time was under the control of Pakistan. So our guys were really in a spot, and we were worried. We were also worried because, and this became a story later on, but we were also worried because one of our senior officers was stuck in that aircraft, and we were worried for him. So there are times when it's difficult. I can tell you that my first posting in Kashmir, the winter of 89-90, was a very, very difficult period. You know. It's difficult to describe all that. All I can tell you is that when I left home, which was 29 Gupkar, I never knew whether I was going to come back again or not. It was so bad. And we lost 4 officers in the space of 3 weeks. So a lot of the time I was just sending body bags down to Delhi. And there was a day when there were about 15 people in my office. And they said, they didn't gherao me, but half gherao me and said, we want to talk to you. So it was a sunny December day, and I said, okay, let's go out and talk. And they said, you know, everybody's leaving. And everybody had left Srinagar that winter. And we can't stay here any longer. Our lives are in danger. The Kashmiri Pandits had started leaving. As I said, we were losing officers. And they said, we all want to leave. I said, you can't leave. In our job, there's no leaving. And as long as I'm here, you're going to be here. So we stuck it out, and it was a terrible, terrible winter.
That is when Rubaiya Said was also kidnapped, the Home Minister's daughter.
That's right.
So you spoke about Ajit Doval, who's now the National Security Advisor. He was one of the negotiators in Kandahar. Sir, you have a chapter on him in your memoir, and you describe how he disguised himself as a rickshaw puller to enter the Golden Temple, which had been taken over by terrorists. Can you tell us one of your own experiences that would compare with something like that?
No, I could never compare with him. I mean, he was the perfect spook, you know. I mean, I must admit, I've never been a rickshaw puller or anything like that. So, I haven't done. I couldn't pull that kind of thing off.
You were too well known.
No, it's not that. You know, some people can do it. And let me put it like that: that he knew many more tricks of our craft than I do, what we call trade craft. And so he's he and me is me. And Ajit has been a very dear friend, and we work together. We work together in Kashmir, and. It's very strange that, I'm the one who took him to Kashmir. And I introduced him. We went to Kashmir together when he was posted. The day before Dr. Farooq Abdullah was sworn in 1996. And I said to Ajit, let's go straight to Farooq's place. I'll introduce you to the Chief Minister. And I took him there, and I told Farooq, I said, this is our best operational hand, you know. And we are giving you the best officer possible from Delhi. And sadly, tragically, the two of them never got along. The chemistry didn't work.
And that continues till today, but we'll come to that later. I have more questions on Ajit Doval, but before I go there, I do want to talk about the bit in your book where you talk about how you were on a train to Bhopal when the Sikh riots broke out, and the part that I agree with Manishankar Iyer on is the word pogrom. Where I differ with him very vehemently is the fact that the Congress party was not involved, but I will quarrel with him later on that. Sir, describe that journey, because in the book you say that is when you discovered your Sikh identity.
Yeah, you know, ours was not a very religious kind of family. Of course, we are Sikhs, but the thing is that I never had religion thrust on me, you know. My father was a very, very tolerant sort of person. He himself had gone to Cambridge, had cut his hair, married an English woman. So it was that kind of thing, you know. But yeah, that was a journey, a train journey I should never have undertaken. It was the 1st of November, the day after Mrs. Gandhi's assassination. Incidentally, I was on the trip with the President of India, and we came back from, I think it was Sana, when we got news that Mrs. Gandhi had been shot. And we arrived in the evening, and the next morning when I went to office, I was told, hold on, you'll be needed here because there are a lot of VIPs coming, and you'll be required to do VIP duty. And then a couple of hours later, I was told, run back immediately to Bhopal because riots had broken off all over the country. And although Madhya Pradesh was not that badly affected, Bhopal certainly was not. But I was told to rush back to Bhopal. And normally, I should have taken the evening flight. I don't know what got into me. And there was an afternoon train, I think it was called the Tamil Nadu Express. And I said, look, let's get on to this. I'll be in Bhopal by 8 o'clock in time for dinner. And the moment that train left New Delhi railway station, it was a terrible experience because they were stone pelting, and the moment we pulled out of the station, and finally when we reached Dholpur, the train was held up for about an hour and a half there. And boys came into the compartments and they said, "Dhondo Sikh, dhondo maro Sikhon ka salon ko. Musalman ho to chhod dena, Sikh ho to malo sale ko." And I didn't know what to do. I was the only one in that first class compartment. And while these boys were breaking furniture and breaking the window panes of the train, I quietly went onto the platform. And I thought a couple of times of running away. But then I said, you silly ass, where will you go? Where will you run? There's nowhere to run here. Anyway, after about an hour and a half, the train sort of finally moved on. And the ticket collector, or whatever he is on the train, came to inquire about me. He says, "Aap to theek hai na?" And like I mentioned to Shami and possibly in the book also, I was fortunate that I was wearing a full-sleeve shirt, so the kala didn't show up that evening. Otherwise, I was a dead duck, because that fellow told me, he says, "Piche unhone 3 Sikhon ko jala diya hai." And by the time the train pulled into Bhopal station, it was close to midnight. And I can tell you, I had nightmares for the next 2 nights. It was a terrible experience. And yes, I realized that day that I am a Sikh and I can't run away from it.
In some ways, I also understood it in '84. I was a journalist then, and I was covering the violence in Delhi. I used to lock my father in the house and go out. But let's move on to Doval. I said I'd come back to Doval. Sir, in the book you say Doval...
So that's why I'm saying you're a double agent.
You can call me what you like.
I will ask a Doval obsession. Anyway, carry on.
I will still ask my questions.
He's a common friend, it's okay.
Yes. In the book you say Doval's loyalty is to power, not to a politician, and that if Rahul Gandhi were to become the Prime Minister, Doval would try and become his national security advisor too. Sounds a bit uncharitable. Is he talking to you after reading the book?
No, he stopped talking before that, but he's always been opposed to books, you know. It takes me back to the second book with Asad Durrani, and I especially went to Ajit. He was the NSA then also, and I said, Ajit, please give Durrani a visa. Let him come here for the launch, you know. And he said, certainly not, I won't give him a visa. And then that was only the beginning. Then I was sent various messages that whatever you do, don't think of having a launch in Delhi, you know. You've done whatever you've done is wrong, but nothing more now. We had the launch, and we had Asad Durrani also speak on Zoom or whatever it's called. And he spoke his part. But Ajit was not happy, of course not. And like I mentioned in the book, you know, that if that is uncharitable, let me say that Ajit is, because being a professional, he's everybody's friend and nobody's friend. So that's how it is, I mean.
In the chapter on Doval again, you talk about his ruthlessness and his proximity to Prime Minister Modi and the very muscular policy that they have adopted. And then you ask two questions, which are very relevant. I want you today to answer those questions. The questions are, where will they take Kashmir and where will they take India?
You know, the thing is that actually this started in the PMO one day. Ajit called me, and it was before the abrogation.
Of 370, 4 years ago.
Of 370. And he called me and he said, what is your view? What would you suggest? Kashmir mein kya karna chahiye? So I've always believed in talking, in engagement. That's the only way. Whether it's Kashmir, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Canada today, whatever it is, you have to talk. And I said, Ajit, you need to talk. He said, nahi, bahut ho gaya. Baatcheet bahut ho gaya. Ab danda lagayenge. So I said, lagao. Badi khushi se lagao danda. So I don't know how much of a danda was lagao then, but I know that after the abrogation, when the abrogation happened, I was one of those people who spoke against the abrogation. I talked against it because I felt that it was totally unnecessary. There was nothing left in 370. It was only a fig leaf which kept the Kashmiri happy. Because 370 had finished in 75 when Sheikh Saab signed the accord with Indira Gandhi. And Sheikh said that accession was irrevocable. So that was the end of 370. There was nothing left. But it was part of the BJP manifesto, so they had to do it, and they did it. Okay, they did it. And I feel now it's done, it's dusted, it's not going to come back. But at the same time, what has been promised in Parliament is that statehood would be restored to Jammu and Kashmir. And I think what is lacking today and what Kashmir desperately needs is a revival of the political and democratic process. It's been 9 years since there's been an election or an elected government in Jammu and Kashmir. And I think the only reason
6 years, sir.
for not having elections, I feel, is because nobody knows what the result will be.
Yeah, they were in power, sharing power with Mehbooba Mufti till 2017, I think, when they withdrew support.
17?
Yes.
Okay.
So you mentioned Article 370, which was abrogated now 4 years ago. There has been no reach out. There was one all-party meeting in which Prime Minister Modi said, promised rather, कि दिल से और दिल्ली से दूरी कम करनी है. But it has remained at just that, a statement. There has been no follow-up. The only trip that a politician has made to Kashmir was when Rahul Gandhi went in January as part of the Bharat Jodo Yatra. I remember seeing a lot of people come out at that time. Do we need to see more of that? More politicians going there, engaging. We need a political reach out. After all, Kashmir is not just territory, sir. It is our people.
Well, that's why I said that what we need is a revival of the political and democratic system, you know. We said we'll not talk to terrorists. We've talked to terrorists. We said we'll not talk to separatists. Of course we talk to separatists. Deputy Prime Minister Advani had 2 rounds of talks with the separatists. And he was all prepared for the 3rd round when they lost the 2004 election. So who says we don't talk or we will not talk? It was the same BJP, same NDA government. Yeah, it was not Modi ji, it was Atal ji who was the Prime Minister at that time. So different thinking. But you have to talk. There is no other way. Today we don't even talk to the mainstream, what we call the mainstream. And it's taken us 4 years to release that Mirwais. I think it's a wastage of 4 years, you know, because that guy has been sufficiently mainstream for a long time. And we wasted 4 years. Now we've finally decided to release him. And the first sermon, Friday sermon that he gave on his release, he said exactly what Delhi wanted. So why did we waste 4 years? And Farooq Abdullah, I don't know, has to keep proving that he is the ultimate nationalist in Kashmir. And he keeps saying that. He said, I was born here, I will live here, and I'll die here. And I don't know if anybody has observed that in the last 6 weeks, Farooq has 5 times said, we must talk, we must engage with Pakistan. And unless we engage with Pakistan, we are not going to have peace in Kashmir. Because he is the quintessential Kashmiri. He understands Kashmir. And he knows that this very brutal kind of terror that we are witnessing from time to time in Poonch, Rajouri, and we saw it in Kokarnag. Sometimes it goes to North Kashmir. We've even seen attacks happening targeted attacks happening in Srinagar. So who knows where this will go? The muscular policy, incidentally, yeah, I think it has paid off to a certain extent. That boys, the Kashmiri boys now feel there's no point just dying, you know.
You mentioned Kokarnag, and it was only last month. It was the longest, fiercest gun battle after the abrogation of 370. And it involved local militants. No, it was a Kashmiri. The guy at the center of the operation, sir, was a Kashmiri. So therefore I wanted to ask you that I know the numbers have come down, but I don't think Kashmir is a numbers game, and you will agree with me on that. The numbers keep going up and down of the number of people coming in or the number of people joining various militant gangs. But why do they find the gun so attractive when they know that they're actually signing a death warrant the minute they choose the path to violence? Are they scared?
I don't think more than maybe 1 or maybe 2 possibly Kashmiris who were involved in Kokarnag. They were certainly what the Kashmiri calls FTs, which is foreign terrorists. And this poor colonel and that major and the deputy superintendent of police were all ambushed, you know. Actually, the report that I heard, I keep talking to Kashmiri boys, and what I had heard was that this ambush was supposed to have taken place during the G20 meeting. It was planned for then. But these guys didn't fall for it at that point of time. So it happened a week later, but it did happen, and they were still ambushed. And we saw a similar ambush a couple of years ago in North Kashmir, somewhere near Kupwara or Handwara or something, where a colonel was ambushed.
Supposing you were to, it's a hypothetical question, but I want you to answer it. You advised Atal Bihari Vajpayee. If you had the chance and the occasion to advise Narendra Modi, what would you tell him? One, vis-a-vis Pakistan, and two, vis-a-vis Kashmir. Would you like to see him going there and announcing the restoration of statehood? I mean, no Prime Minister goes to Kashmir without a political message. We know that.
No, he should not go unless he has a political message. You know, I had been sticking my neck out, and for the last 4 or 5 months I had been saying that Modi ji will begin talking to Pakistan before the end of the year. And, you know, I have been on this track too with the Pakistanis. And we were together in Bangkok in May, you know, in fact, I think it was the 9th or 10th of May when all hell was let loose in Lahore. And I told the Pakistanis, I said, this is like the storming of the Bastille, you know. So I said, now, because the previous night we were having dinner together, and the Pakistanis said, any chance of moving forward? I said, sure, there's every chance of moving forward. But the next day when we heard of what was happening in Lahore, I said, all bets are off now. I don't see anything happening. So right now also I think that the problem is that there is no government we only have a caretaker or a lame duck government in Pakistan. It's sad, but we need to still engage. I have a question here for Dr. Prabhakar, because sir, you know it much more than anyone else. Suppose we were to get the four most radical Jamatis from Pakistan and the 4 most Pakka guys from Nagpur and sit them down on a table. Would that be a good idea? I thought it should be tried.
That's what he said.
Because, you know, goodies like us and Mr. Mani Shankar and all, we keep saying the same thing. That, you know, we were again together in Bangkok. What he says, I say. What I say, he says, and we say the same thing, you know, which is peace, and peace must prevail. Incidentally, the sum and substance of that book called Spy Chronicles, which I wrote with Asad Durrani, was only this, that peace has to prevail. And having served with Atal Bihari Vajpayee for 5.5 years, the 2 things I learned from him, of course he was a Chanakya, he was a very smart politician, very clever politician. The 2 things I learned from him was that this permanent confrontation with Pakistan had to end, and we needed to move forward in Kashmir. And I always believed that he became Prime Minister far too late. If he had become Prime Minister instead of Morarji Desai in 77, you know, what a fantastic Prime Minister he would have made. In fact, you know, in all this, whatever is happening now in Israel and the Gaza Strip and the Palestinian this thing, there's a post of Atalji going around. I think it was March 77 when he said that Israel will have to vacate Palestinian lands.
So answer the statehood question.
Sorry, I skirted your main this thing. Yeah, I would, you know, if I could, Modi ji doesn't talk to me. And
that's why I said hypothetical.
Yeah, hypothetical. But if Modi ji were to ask me what to do, I would say, sir, go to Srinagar. Go by yourself. You don't need any security. Go to Lal Chowk, or wherever you want, or Pratap Park, or whatever it is, and make an announcement that statehood was being restored, elections will be held within 2 months, and he could move around in an open jeep in Srinagar, and the boys would come out to garland him.
That's a very huge statement. Modi will not need security if he announces statehood, and the Kashmiris will garland him.
They will garland him. That's what Kashmir is like. And you know, you mentioned Rahul Gandhi's yatra. What that yatra did in Kashmir, of course, a lot of people came out to even in the snow, to hear him and to watch him. It revived the idea of India in Kashmir, which has gradually been fading away or dying. That's what Rahul Gandhi did. And I'll tell you one more thing. I don't know what's going to happen in 2024. Dr. Prabhakar, I think, has the answer, but he won't give it to us. But if the BJP were to lose in 2024, then I think a lot of the credit must go to Rahul Gandhi's yatra.
And you think that's a possibility?
I have no idea. That's why I'm asking Dr. Prabhakar. If he collaborates, we can find an answer.
Okay.
Because I'll tell him a little bit and he'll tell me much more.
So, sir, in your book you say that the nightmare in the Kashmir mind has changed. The fear is that they will be reduced to a minority in their own homeland. Yeah. That makes the need for a reach out that much more urgent. Would you say, okay, let me ask you a very straight question. Emotionally, have we lost the valley? Emotionally?
No. You know this, our friend Mr. Yashwant Sinha keeps saying this because he used to visit the valley more often. And he invited me a couple of times. I said, sir, there's no point just going there to get ourselves photographed unless there's some backing from Delhi. But the first couple of times when he went, and he had a very well-meaning team with him, he came back and he said, we've lost the valley. And I said, no, we haven't lost the valley. We will never lose the valley. There's no question about that. The Kashmiri has nowhere to go.
I said emotionally, sir.
Yeah, emotionally we've lost it temporarily. Because Kashmir, and this is how the Kashmiri speaks, you know, Kashmir is always at the crossroads. So he's not so okay today and he'll be okay tomorrow. It's that kind of thing. But you have to reach out to him, yeah. So it is, Kashmir is not a military or a law and order problem. Please understand this.
I agree.
It is a political matter, and more than that, it is an emotive issue. And therefore, you have to reach out. You have to talk. You have to engage. And it requires a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of empathy. You know? And I'm reminded of something which I think Henry Kissinger said about Donald Trump. He said that this fellow is a madcap, but there is some method to his madness, you know. He reaches out to enemies to make friends. And I think, if nothing else, we should look at it that way, you know. Because friends will always be friends, hopefully, but the bigger thing is to reach out to who we think are enemies. And I don't think we should think that either Pakistan or China are permanent enemies.
You met Farooq Abdullah when he was under a house arrest, almost like maybe a year after 370 was abrogated. And you quote what he said to you in your book. He said that, I have always been Indian, I will remain an Indian. But what do I tell my grandchildren when they ask me, is this the India you want us to be with? What possibly could you have told them? Or what can Farooq Abdullah tell his grandchildren?
Nothing. I'll tell you what happened actually. I was asked to...
That's a secret being revealed, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's a secret now,
Yes.
which Shami revealed long ago. And I said, how did you get this? And she got it from, as I said, the double agent.
Anyway.
So anyway, I spent, I think I was allowed 2 hours with Farooq. So I was there with him from 1 to 3 and he gave me, very kindly, his wife gave me lunch of mushroom soup or something. And he was very quiet throughout. And Delhi's main concern actually was, I can say it now, I think, that when Farooq comes out, he should not talk about 370 and he should not mention Pakistan. Now, knowing Farooq, I didn't have to say those things to Farooq. He's far too smart for all that. And when he came out, if you recall, he refused to speak to the press. He said, I'll only go and speak in Parliament. So Farooq is far too sharp. People think he loves the good life, which he does. But he's a damn good politician, you know. So he wouldn't talk very much that day. It was sort of a bit off color, a little morose. So after a while I said to him, I've got to carry a story back home. Can I talk to Safia, which is his daughter? She was there. I said, can you please leave me alone with Safia for half an hour? So I get something, you know. And it was Safia actually who said that to me, that, you know, and if you recall, not only Safia, but Farooq's daughter also, they were locked up and had to spend a night in central jail just for protesting. Women protesting against the abrogation. So Safia was not amused, and neither were the grandchildren.
Farooq Abdullah was called an enemy of the state.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, you know, some of the youngsters, and this is how it is. They said, बहुत अच्छा है, इनको बंदी रखो, और बोलो जय माता दी. Huh? And I remember my friend Asad Durrani called me because, you know, I don't know how many people realize this, that if there is a family which is really unpopular in Pakistan, it is the Abdullahs, because they feel that Sheikh was responsible for Kashmir remaining with India. And Asad Durrani called me up and he said, your friend has been locked up. I said, yeah, very unfortunate. He said, no, I think it's good for him. And then I tell you what happened. A month or so later, Farooq had written the foreword for our book. It's not there in the hardcover, but it's there in the paperback. And I sent that to Asad Durrani, and he called me back again and he says, please thank Dr. Saab and give him all my good wishes, because Dr. Saab had written well of the general.
So there's a lot more in the book that I would like to talk about, but we don't have the time. A very heartwarming story of how Mr. Dulat met his wife, Paran, who's here with us. Another very interesting story about how he was called by the Sri Lankan Prime Minister, Chandrika Kumaratunga, and he was actually asked, where are you hiding the LTTE chief? Please tell us where Prabhakar is. That's also part of the book. The book is available here at Full Circle. I'm going to open the floor for questions. Do identify yourself. And questions, please, not comments. Yes, sir.
My question is, was our soldiers martyred in Pulwama because of an intelligence failure, or there was more than meets the eye because people have commented on it?
Sir, you are sitting in Bombay and you are interested in Pulwama.
Kasauli.
You know, whenever anything goes wrong, it's an intelligence failure. Pearl Harbor would not have happened, 9/11 would not have happened, 7th of October would not have happened. So
Are you being sarcastic?
No, I'm telling you the honest truth. Now, what happened in Pulwama, I think Governor Satpal Malik knows best.
Any other questions? Yes, please. Just speak up. Or come forward.
A lot of terrorist Do I need to repeat?
Yeah, no, I understand your question.
You can give me the answer then, sir? Thank you.
No, please ask your question.
My question, again, all right. A lot of terrorists who are on India's most wanted lists across the world are being killed by unknown assailants. It's happened in Pakistan lately, Canada, maybe, and other places. There is also an article that has come out that perhaps the Indian intelligence can be compared with Mossad. Your comments on this, please.
No, I wouldn't like to be compared with Mossad right now. You know, my contemporary was a gentleman called Ephraim Halevi, very fine man, and he was chief for 5 or 6 years of Mossad. And he and I thought alike because he believed that engagement. And he said, and I've quoted him in the book as well, I think maybe in all 3 books, that he said, we can never stamp out Hamas. We have to engage, we need to talk, we need to come to settlements, you know. And there is no other way. And he was not the only one. I mean, there have been others before him also who believed that you can't crush people, you know. And this whole business about people being killed here and people being killed there, I can only tell you one thing, that if you kill, then don't suffer from the illusion that you can't get killed.
Whoops. But you said a little while ago that Mr. Doval is the best spook, so we don't know what he...
I can tell you, Mr. Doval will never mess up anything.
Okay, so that
Adding to that question, I'm going to repeat, but do we have the capability, like Mossad-like capabilities? Do we have those most wanted people who have attacked here and are hiding across?
As I said, I would rather not have Mossad-like capabilities. Mossad is in a hell of a fix these days, you know. So let's not compare ourselves with Mossad. I think we are better than Mossad.
as far as Mr. Dulat is concerned, he believes in Batcheet, as he said. Quite unlike Mr. Doval, who says Danda Chalao.
Yeah, you know, the point is that I've spent my whole life talking, and mostly talking to Kashmiri. It's been 35, 30. Even now I keep talking. I don't know why. My wife says you're nutty, you know. You get these guys and just half a sec. Mother, I love you, just give me half a sec. Yeah, and you know, I still keep getting Kashmiris who come home. And now I tell them also, I say, I don't know, I don't trust you guys anymore. I don't know who's sending you to me, because I don't know where you come from. Because half of them are spooking on me. And you know what a spook's life is like. One day we shifted residence from Friends Colony to the Defense Colony. And an old Kashmiri came to meet me. And he said, ये आपका नया safe house है. मैंने कहा यही समझ लीजिए. And talking about safe houses, we'll end it here. And because, you know, you mentioned Ajit, when we were engaging with the separatists, with the Hurriyat, so I used to talk to them regularly, and I used to talk to them at home, which the IB did not approve of. And Ajit would say to me, can I also come and join your conversations? I said, most welcome. So one day I told the DIB, and I said, you know, Ajit is keen to meet these guys, and they're coming in a couple of days, so I'll call Ajit to join us. He said, no. Your ways are very different from ours, you know. I will not allow any of my officers to meet other than in a safe house. So ours was not a safe house.
Sir, may you write a 4th book soon and maybe come back to Kasauli to have a discussion on it, and maybe we do a book together, inshallah.
We can start tonight, Shamir.
Thank you so much. A round of applause, please. for
Thank
Mr.
you.
Dulat.
Thank you all very, very much for being so patient.